vulnerable, and called for awareness raising of the existing mechanisms. And Heather identified push and pull factors available to the Commonwealth, including the already espoused values, the fact that they're working on national human rights mechanisms, and the fact that they're already working on action plans. So that what needs to happen is that inclusion of human rights defenders' protection in those actions would go a far way to helping us all to do our work. So now, over to you.
Just a point of interest. I went over to next door and I went over this side, and they're both talking about the same legislation in Uganda, but from different points of view. And I think it's important for us to get together on this issue or send emissaries to find out what's happening. Because this gentleman is talking about the difficulty of that Uganda legislation in terms of getting aid from the US, which has changed its PEPFAR policy on AIDS. And the kind of dialogue it requires governments to have, in the case of the Uganda government, would create restrictions in Uganda getting aid for AIDS if it continues with this legislation. So it would be interesting in the draft statement to collect all those things as being illustrative of how one piece of bad legislation done under the noses of the Commonwealth, who seem not to care about these things, can have so much effect on other things. Yeah? And maybe we should talk to the other people when we're drafting.
I think that's an excellent idea, and it illustrates for me as well the interrelatedness of human rights and everything else. So we need to follow that up.
Thank you. Just to highlight on what Maya said, and actually to commend all the speakers who spoke, the panelists. I think this Ugandan bill is very, very instrumental, you know, in the sense that it is not only a bill in Uganda, but it's also a bill that can undermine human rights work in Africa generally. Because, you know, in Africa, we all have our commonalities. We are all common, you know, we all have like some sort of cross-cutting issues. And the issue of homosexuality or same-sex marriage issues are like issues that have evolved generally in the African region, you know, and then in West Africa subregion, East Africa region, and most part of Africa. And to give an example of Nigeria, we also had bills like that have been introduced in 2006 and subsequently in 2008. And basically what we notice is that we as human rights defenders really, by allowing that bill to pass through, we also put ourselves at risk, you know. It means I cannot even go out there to say anything, to defend the rights of those people who are out there, whose rights are being violated. The LGBT persons, you know, maybe I'm not even an LGBT activist, but I'm working on HIV/AIDS issues. But because I have to deal with those people, I have to work on such issues of human rights. And if those kind of bills are passed, it means there's no space for anybody to come out and to speak, you know, and to advocate for any kind of human rights issues. Because that Ugandan bill, if you look at it, look at it within the tentacles of human rights, it's a very unbelievable thing that should emerge in this century that we are now. So I think we really need to harmonize on that and find some means, you know, of devising an action, you know, against such kind of legislations. Thank you.
I'd just like to put on the table that this is not limited to Africa, that we in the Caribbean have the same issues which affect the same problems. Our Prime Minister, in putting on the table a new Charter of Rights, spent half an hour explaining why gays wouldn't be getting any rights from his government. Thank you very much. So it is an issue that cross-cuts the Commonwealth. It is an issue that if we accept that your human rights and my human rights are indivisible, then it affects all of us working in all different areas. So I think it is something that around which we could coalesce and attempt to have clarity on what we call for re that bill.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I think my recommendations also to the panel that spoke very well. I'm Blessings Mjuru from Zimbabwe. I'm fortunate that our colleagues, yes, from the trade union group were able to facilitate my trip here to be able to also participate as an outsider from the Commonwealth. I think it is also common cause that on the basis of unacceptable human rights records, the Zimbabwean government decided to walk out of the Commonwealth. It being sort of a loose connection, the Commonwealth, they were allowed to walk scot-free and continue to abuse willy-nilly the citizens of the country with impunity. And I'm happy that I've had an opportunity to also come and participate in this session. One thing that also I think is a shocker to me as a participant in coming outside of the Commonwealth is that the issues my colleagues are talking about and complaining about as happening in the Commonwealth are very much sort of delineating a picture of what is happening in Zimbabwe. So the question then is, if those who are not in this group are having peers, and it appears many of them, within the Commonwealth group, then there's something very wrong with our government. In our case, the first speaker highlighted that the election point appears to be the point that is creating great opportunities for politicians to trample on human rights. And in our case, as you may be aware, last year, we had a hotly contested election, an election where the civil society and those minorities came together and for once decided to check out the dictatorship in the country. And for some reason, the election results were delayed by more than 30 days. The government claimed that they were doing meticulous verification of the results. And in between, homes, minorities, the civic society leadership, they were all, some of them in jails, others simply disappeared. Up to 2,000 people are up to this day unaccounted for. As if that is not enough, the opposition still led. Then there was supposed to be a runoff. The main opposition leader, Morgan Tsvangirai, under the backing of the civic society, the minorities, and all those who are progressive. A few days before that, the state machinery, the police, as we indicated there, had been politicized. They were in the forefront. Militias, about 15,000 of them, were recruited by the government. They were burning homes, people threatened. Chiefs in the remote parts of the country, about 70% of the people in Zimbabwe are considered to be in the rural communities. So chiefs would collect ID papers for people to vote. So they would be standing by the ballot box. They give you your ID, ask you to cast your vote as they are watching. Those who would cast against the sitting government would be in trouble. So, having been allowed to participate and learning from you, I can only, I think, ask myself and say, what more can the Commonwealth do? Because even those who are not within this group are in the forefront. They are copying also their colleagues in the Commonwealth. The other unfortunate thing is, considering the numbers of the people in the Commonwealth, when it comes to the United Nations, you don't see the people in the Commonwealth coming together and say, in our group as the Commonwealth, we've already taken a position against this country. When it comes to the UN, the Commonwealth members, they don't stand together and support a decision that they would have taken here. It's very unfortunate. I think, thank you for the opportunity. I simply hope that at some point, banning nations will not only be the remedy available. I think there should still be a mechanism to enforce those who decide to walk away when they are breaching some of these rules. Thank you.
Thank you very much, my brother. I think Zimbabwe illustrates a number of issues that we need to be very aware of.
Thank you, madam. My name is Magdalene from Ghana. I think my point is you try to raise the issue of your prime minister speaking against